Hi there! We are the group of guys playing the Four Seasons in Tacoma Musical Playhouse's production of Jersey Boys. I'm Lucas Delamarter, and I'm playing Frankie Valli.
I'm Braden Lincolnback, and I'm playing Bob Gaudio.
I'm Jake Atwood. I'm playing the role of Tommy DeVito.
I'm Jesse Garai, and I will be playing Nick Massey.
So, when I first found out I got the role, I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and I was just scrolling on my phone, and I was checking my Facebook Messenger, and I saw that I got a message from John. And it didn't click with me at first because like the callback process for me was such a mess because I missed the original callback and then was like going through this crazy sickness, and so was having to just do my callback in between shows. And so it didn't click with me at first because I hadn't really considered the idea that I would end up getting cast, let alone as Frankie Valli. So I was kind of stunned for a minute, and my friend was looking at me like, what? Like I'd seen some crazy thing on my phone that was terrible. But yeah, it just took me a minute to process it. It was really cool.
When I first found out I was going to be in the show, I was at work, but a couple days previous, John requested to follow me on Facebook, and I was like, why? This is interesting. And then a couple days later when I'm at work, that's when I got the message saying, would you like to play Bob Gaudio? And I was like, yeah. So, yeah, I was very shocked, but very excited because this has been a dream role the entire time. So, yeah.
I don't remember where I was at. I just know I was religiously checking my messenger, my email. And eventually I got a message from John. I was so excited. I love the show. I love the role of Tommy DeVito. That was like, as Braden said, it was my dream role. So went for it. Was super, super, super excited to receive the message. And I just remember jumping up and down.
I think I do remember where I was. Or at least I remember the show I was in. Or at least I remember the show I was preparing for. I started out so confident, didn't I? It was Little Shop. I was either gearing up for Little Shop or we were already in rehearsals for it. So I had a lot of other things on my mind at the time. But I remember getting the email and thinking, this is fantastic. I get to be a part of the iconic the Four Seasons. It's like, yep, that's what I'm going to be doing in the future.
You got an email?
Oh, sorry. No, I'm used to getting emails.
Okay.
I was message.
He got a personal phone call, actually. The rest of us got a message.
John came to my house.
Made me a 5-star meal.
Exactly. He brought dinner and he told me. It was great.
It was hard. It was really hard because, I mean, for me, I go into a role, and like, for example, I was in Pippin a few months ago, and I was the understudy for Pippin. And the dude who was playing Pippin, he and I had very different approaches to the show and to the character, and my interpretation is different. And so I go into my roles, seeing like how much of Lucas can I bring into this character while also being authentic to the script and the text and the music and whatnot. But it's a little different here because I'm playing a real dude all of a sudden. I had to dial that back, like how much Lucas I'm bringing in, and really reevaluate how I approach that. And so a lot of what I was doing leading up to rehearsals and even during rehearsals was watching interviews and studying mannerisms and finding out the little things that Frankie Valli does that he might not even realize he's doing. We all have our little mannerisms and stuff that we do. So a lot of watching and just studying him and his face and his movements. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun, but it's hard.
I watched a lot of interviews, and I watched a lot of the old concerts and TV experiences that they were on. That's not the right word. Appearances, that's the word. And really the mannerisms of Bob Gaudio is kind of what I was looking at. I mean, he is one of the last two that are alive, sadly. And so that's kind of what I based it off of. I watched the movie. I took all the things I knew about Bob Gaudio and I tried to make him, keeping him himself, but making him like leaving my mark on that role. So yeah, it is really hard playing someone that is a real person. Like Lucas said, it is trying to keep their legacy alive, but also then make it your own because you don't want to I don't know, seem boring, I guess.
I think we're adding on top of what both these guys said, we're super fortunate with this show specifically, since there's just boundless amounts of material to pull from, both just professionally from the 4 seasons and from the time that it was present on both Broadway and on tour. So much so, it's gained enough popularity to go on another tour here in the next year or two. So it's pretty exciting. You have boundless amount of resources. You have textbooks. You have music, platforms like Spotify to be able to look up their old songs and their old recordings to be able to really get that sound, to be able to capture it enough to where not necessarily to mimic what the 4 seasons were about, but to be able to get an idea and an energy to be able to then, as Lucas mentioned, to put your own perspective into and your own truth, if you will, to combine that. So personally, Tommy DeVito is no longer alive. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple years ago. And so we were extremely limited to resources like interviews. I had an old book from when I saw it back in 2016. There was a resource book with interviews from when Tommy DeVito was interviewed about the show. And I was able to kind of pull a little bit of inspiration from that. But then at the same time, they do have little clips from the Broadway production. You're able to kind of get an idea of how initially Des, the director of the Broadway production, had portrayed these characters, and how, from that point forward, everybody kind of took their own spin on things. So yeah, pulling from resources, pulling from your own experiences, understanding the context historically of where we're at, just kind of conglomerated into what you see today in our own intricate personalities and our own intricate portrayals of these roles. So yeah,
I don't really have much that I can add to what these 3 have already said. We've got the footage, we've got the music everywhere, and we also have to keep in mind that these characters they've kind of been, I might use the word streamlined, to serve a particular function in the story that's told with this script. So sometimes you're not going to get all of the nuance for that, but you're really called on to bring your own perspective, like Jake was saying.
The thing that comes to mind for me immediately is Frankie is 16 at the start of the show, and then just gets older and older and older and older, and ages up. And I'm only 20 at the time right now, and so having to and this is just acting in general. It could not be Frankie Valli if I'm playing anyone that ages up throughout the course of the show. It's making that distinction between young Frankie and older Frankie, because we're not going to go put a beard on my face during intermission or anything like that, but I do have to display the age and the maturity and the wisdom that he's gained over however many years have gone by in each scene. And that's really hard, and it requires a lot of nuance in looking at the minutia of the text.
I would say one of the things that was kind of not a shock, because I knew it coming into the show, but it's a vocally demanding show. It is very vocally demanding, not just on the 4 of us, but everyone that sings, backstage. But the 4 of us have to sing crazy high. Except for our friend over there. The three of us have to sing really high. And I would just say that is something that has just been a little crazier than usual for me in the musical theater setting. But it's been so rewarding when we get it right. So
a particular challenge with this specific show, unlike most musicals, is that while some musicals rely on the text to kind of push it into the next number after number after number, this specific show is much more of a play with music. Other than the challenge of it obviously being a real life story with a few embellishments, it's very much a challenging production in the sense that we need to be able to tell the story with the dialogue and not necessarily rely on the music. Everybody has fantastic voices in this production. Everybody puts a lot of time and effort into making sure they know their parts and their tracks. But it says a lot about us to be able to take a step back and go, how can we strip down each scene and make sure that we're telling this story honestly, earnestly, and as a unit rather than individually. So yeah, I'd say particularly the challenge was really just sticking together through it all. Music, dialogue, transitions, knowing that we really, from ensemble all the way up to the 4 seasons, to the music director, to the backstage, we have to be this cohesive unit, make sure that we're all on the same page at the same time. So that's been particularly challenging.
Yeah, I'd have to say that going off of that, this show is remarkably fluid compared to a lot of shows. There's constantly some sort of set change going on, even if it's in the dark whilst the spotlight is on one. Don't be looking for it. Focus on the character. But yeah, there's a lot that's constantly going on, either on stage or off stage, even in the quiet moments, and that has been challenging but very rewarding.
I think that it comes back to what Jake said about being a unit, right? And I know it says the story of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, but there is no Frankie Valli without the Four Seasons. And so there was a lot of time in the beginning where we would just sit down and like line by line, note by note, make sure that every single one of us is hitting that perfectly and in blend. And what I found it's done for our camaraderie is we're all very laid back with each other. I mean, we can be rehearsing in mid-scene and someone's doing a monologue and the other three guys are over here and we're ad-libbing with each other and just making up stuff on the spot in our Jersey accents. And oftentimes I break character because Jake is really funny when he does it. But it's created this sense of not lackadaisical, but very laid back and very fun and easygoing while also being very professional and hardworking.
I think that really at the beginning of the process, it was hard to really get a good sense of what the four of us were like because there was always like one of us missing. There was only a few rehearsals in the beginning where all of us were there. When you don't have your fourth person, it kind of makes it a little hard to have that cohesiveness that you need in the four of us. So I would say throughout the process, as we gotten closer and closer to the shows, we've had ourselves here like every time, and it's kind of we're very relaxed. I mean, like you said, we can actually relax with each other. I felt like I was very tense when we didn't have everyone because I was like, oh no, it's going to throw things off. But really, I mean, once we have everyone here, I feel very confident. I feel like we're a really good group. And yeah, it's just been a blast.
When I think about our experience together as a group, I think of the word intentional. I mean, anytime you walk into a rehearsal, everybody has their intention for how they hope the rehearsal is going to go. More so when you're in a quartet or a group such as the Four Seasons, we have to be linked together. Each one of us have a different motivation, but we have to make sure that we're being intentional about our scenes, making sure that we're intentional about our music, making sure that we're intentional with just individually together as people outside of the production. Because a lot of people don't realize that, yes, we spend a lot of time together throughout the week in rehearsals, but there's downtime. There's time where we're outside of those characters. There's time where we're able to exist and be able to check in on one another. We all have different processes, as any artist does. And I think that that's what we've done a really good job about is we've kind of taken this last 5+ weeks and got to know one another as both a professional and as a person. And it helps because we can start to see those isms as you're on stage with each other, like, oh, Braden does this, oh, Lucas does that, oh, Jesse does this. And you can kind of play off that and you kind of build that group. And that's the uniqueness that we have is that every Four Seasons pairing that you see will be different from another. And I think that it's really cool to start to see your version specifically come together, both professionally, personally, and just really stand out. So yeah, it's been a wonderful past couple weeks getting to know one another and just kind of continue to develop those relationships.
I think I have a unique perspective on this, having actually shared stage, dressing rooms with all three of these guys before this show was cast. So once I knew who all of the other Four Seasons were, I told myself, this is gonna be amazing. We're gonna gel so well, and it has far surpassed my expectations. It's been so much fun. And we work together fantastically, and I'm just so glad to be a part of this. So,
I find it inspiring. As Jesse said earlier, there's a fluidity to this show with set pieces constantly moving before a scene is even finished. And the four of us guys are on stage pretty much all the time, and we're doing stuff. And so there's very few times that we can handle or do those set changes. And the other members of this cast are on their A game all the time, whether it's moving sets or singing off stage or getting ready to go on for their scene and performing, like with the Angels when they do My Boyfriend's Back. I mean, everyone has brought their A game. It's not just the Four Seasons that there is to be impressed about with this show. And I think it's really inspiring.
This cast is filled with a lot of talent. The people that we get to work with that do those set changes, I mean, there's years and years of experience and different levels of experience. And I think it's really exciting and inspiring to see them work and work alongside them and have them be a support. This is my first show at TMP, and it has been so welcoming, and I just felt like I've been welcomed with a warm embrace working with these folks, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
You know, I have nothing but the utmost respect for every single person involved with this production, whether it be on stage, off stage, music, performance, etc. Everybody is giving absolutely everything they have. I mean, beyond just the Four Seasons, you've got everyone else that builds this world around them, whether it be in Jersey, on the road, on tour, in our personal lives, like with Frankie and his many love interests that he has in this show. And then, so on and so forth, that you have a lot of, like I mentioned earlier, just this cohesion that needs to happen in a linear fashion, because transitions come fast and they come hard. It's having, when it comes to set changes, for instance, not only do our lovely ensemble folks have to be able to do all the transitions with the set, they also hand us guitars. They have to jump in, hand a guitar, and then the next moment be in the scene and be engaged and make sure they're telling their portion of the story with the rest of us. We honestly could not do this without anyone else in this production, because they are the backbone of what we do. And then off stage, of course, you have the band who in one rehearsal came in ready to go, and that's really all you can ask for in a production. And then you got the production team in general, the folks in the box office just constantly pitching for us. And we're really fortunate, really blessed to have the support that we do have both on and off stage. And I think that's what really, that builds that confidence in you. And you know that it's a team effort, right? Everybody's bringing their A game, as Braden said. And not once have we really kind of fallen flat. You have a flat tire, you're going to slow the whole car down.
Yeah, I'll agree. The level of talent in this cast is unbelievable. And that's not even to mention the experience. I mean, we've got a cast of, these are like hand-selected veteran performers, actors, singers, dancers that we have all throughout this cast. And it's absolutely a joy to be a part of. Every one of them is professional, friendly, fun, just stellar at what they do.
Funnily enough, I was familiar with a lot of it, but I just didn't know that it was the Four Seasons. There are so many of these songs that I'm like, oh yeah, I know that song, or I'll hum the tune of that song when I'm in the shower or whatever. But it wasn't until doing the show and doing research that, oh, that's the Four Seasons song, or that's a Frankie Valli song, or yeah, they're everywhere. It's pretty cool.
I will say I knew like almost all the songs in the show beforehand. This group has meant a lot to me since I was little. My dad got me listening to the Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons when I was young. And kind of going off though, I didn't hear it as much, except for like on TikTok, Can't Take My Eyes Off You, a sped up version, like went viral. And then the other day I was in the store and Dawn was playing on the radio. And I was just like, wow, it's the subtle like moments that they find their way into your life. And it's kind of amazing, honestly.
I grew up a lifelong fan of the Four Seasons, both the initial Four Seasons and Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. I largely credit that to my grandparents. Just a lot of their music of their generation has seeped into my life. And so much so that I grew up with their music. And then once I found out in like late middle school, early high school about there being a musical, I fell in love with that show and I just kind of followed it. I mean, anybody who has a passion or a love for certain music, you're going to follow it. I saw Frankie live in the Chateau, and that was just incredible to kind of see this legacy of music brought on stage live in front of you for the first time. And then just, obviously going, deep into the music of the musical and just kind of having that in the back of your mind, like one of these days I want to do this show because I grew up with this music. I grew up having a fondness for it. It brings back memories. And so, it's like, the two before me had said, it's kind of interesting to see that many more people know this music than you think. A lot of these earworms that you grew up knowing, you might not know that they were actually Four Seasons songs to begin with. So that'll be exciting for the few of you who come.
So I have specifics. There were actually 4 that I knew before the show started. So I'm the odd one out who didn't actually know a lot of it. So Big Girls Don't Cry, I knew was the Four Seasons. Walk Like a Man, the first time I heard was in Mrs. Doubtfire. You're Just Too Good to Be True, I didn't know was Frankie Valli. I think I had read something that said it was like a lot of people think it's Frankie Valli, but it was actually, and it was clearly didn't know what the heck it was talking about. And Stay, I was vaguely familiar with.
I hope that this doesn't come out wrong. But there's clearly a lot of stuff and a lot of nuances that I miss out on because I'm so young. And so it's been very helpful to have people who I grew up with this music or were involved with this music. And that, as funny as it sounds, it's been very helpful to have.
It's such a great way of putting it. Keep going.
It's been very helpful to have because I'm playing a real person who, is still alive, fortunately, so I can still be gathering resources and intel on him. But he was never a focal point of my life like he was for so many people. Had I been my age back when the Four Seasons were very popular, he'd probably be a big part of my life too. But yeah, suffice to say, it's been very helpful to have kind of a guiding figure in that sense to help me bridge the gap in time.
Yeah, to add off of that, working with John and Jeff, there was a rehearsal where it was me and Lucas, and we were running some scenes, and I was doing a monologue, and John was like, "Do you know what that means?" And I'm like, no, I don't. And I kept going, and I was like, he was like, "Do you know what that means?" And I'm like, "No." And he was like, "Okay, it looks like you got some homework." And just having that extra like dramaturge work where you actually have to do the research and look into what you're actually saying. What does it actually mean? Because Lucas and I are young. And we weren't alive. Just being point blank, we weren't alive when a lot of this story is being told. So having that history and that knowledge going into it has helped a lot with our deliverance of the lines.
I've had the fortunate privilege of the last decade or so of working with John and Jeff on and off on various productions, and it's always exciting to work with them, especially when you've hit that, you have that same peak of love and passion for the production as they do. And you walk in with the same love and the same interest and the same excitement for a mutual project that it amplifies the entire experience. Jersey Boys, top 5 ultimately for me. Jersey Boys, absolutely, from my conversations with John and Jeff, top 5, 10 with them. And it's been a great opportunity to kind of just really develop your relationship even further, whether it had been, for the younger folks over here or the old guys like myself and Jesse who, can share in that camaraderie, if you will. So it's been great just having yet another experience to just really delve together.
Over the past 2 odd years or so, John and Jeff have given me so many incredible opportunities to be a part of so many wonderful casts, wonderful shows, just a lot of great memories. And with this show in particular, John, he was really wanting this show. He was so wanting to get the chance to do Jersey Boys, and he did. And it really shows the level of dedication, the level of care, the level of passion that he has been pumping into this show in his direction, demanding that we get this point across, demanding that we're getting the delivery of something right so that we are nailing this story. And it's really been something to behold, and I'm glad I could be a part of it.
As someone who really aspires to be a performer and someone who wants to be in the spotlight and, perform and sing for people and act and dance and whatever. I think this is the ultimate rags to riches story. And these guys came up from little to nothing that they had, and grew up to be international superstars who, I mean, we're still singing their songs today. That's what we're here for, is to honor their legacy. And that is very inspiring to me, to think that, you can be at the bottom and still pursue what you love and pursue music and tell a story. And I think that's really powerful.
One thing that I really like about this show, it highlights that they are people, they are humans, they are they make mistakes, and their start it is the ultimate rags to riches. Was it clean and easy, and did they get there necessarily in the best of ways? No, but did they get there? Yeah, and it shows you put your mind to it, you can do it, kind of thing. And the passion and the dedication that they all had until things fell apart. It was that drive from all of them collectively that put them over the top too. So, yeah.
So there's an ongoing tradition and value strictly from the East Coast, shout out to my family and friends over on the East, that's present throughout this production. And that's prominently displayed in a line that says, "Family is everything." And you'll find, as Lucas mentioned, this is a rags to riches story. So these men go through a lot together. They go through the mean streets of Jersey, all that inhabits that, the mob, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, the gigs, the unemployment, all the way to the cascade of meeting somebody like Bob Gaudio and getting to that 1 hit, 2 hits, 3 hits, ultimate fame, and just remembering at the end of the day that when it all disappears and everything's dropped away but the music, as Frankie says, there's nothing left but the people that you have around you, right? You make a lot of the decisions based on love and the dedication you have on the people that help elevate you and help lift you up and help push you forward. And I think that it's something that anybody can take away from a production like this, is that always remember to be that where you came from is just as important as where you're going. So yeah, that's definitely something I take away from the production.
The show is not afraid to show the darker side of these characters. I mean, they begin more or less as criminals, just about, and they own it, and they're like, hey, there's almost a friendly relationship between some of them and the local police officers. It's pretty funny, except Bob was goody two shoes, I guess. Yeah. But he did do some jail time, so he got in on it too. But yeah, it just shows what can happen when you're chasing a dream, when you're that hungry for it. There's another line in the show, none of us were saints. I mean, words escape me right now. He says, not much more to add beyond that. That's the important part. Family really was a redeeming quality for them, and we hope that is seen when you see us.
I'm struggling to find one cohesive thought, because I think there's a lot. And maybe this answer is cliche or generic, but I think the thing that is speaking to my soul is just the power of music and the stories that we can tell and the lives that we can impact, whether that's us performing the Four Seasons music or it's the Four Seasons. Music is powerful, and it's a language that transcends any barrier. Every culture, every country, every place around the world has music and sound in some way, shape, or form. And ours just happens to be 60s rock.
Yeah, this is a hard question to answer, I think, because I think we said a lot of what I personally take from, but what do I think people should take from this too? The other day, Lucas and I and our percussionist Iris were talking about how we want this to be, like, we have to kind of go back in like a time machine a little bit, just to I want to set them back, feel like they're in the moment, to learn some history, learn something, because I feel like a lot of people that are coming to see the show know the Four Seasons, but maybe they don't. And so learning that history and maybe inspiring them through music, which is super important. and maybe we spark someone's imagination. I do shows to spark like a fire in someone to want to inspire them, really. That's what I think about whenever I perform. I'm doing it for the people in the audience, to inspire them to do what I do or do their own thing. And music is super important and powerful, so yeah.
My hope for anybody that comes to see this production, apart from just how wonderful the music is and the story is in itself, is that everyone from the highest of high to the most popular musical theater fans, all the way down to the brand new first time ever being in a theater, is able to both appreciate and understand the value and contribution that art has in our community. Jersey Boys is one of those very rare shows that is primarily open for everybody. It opens its doors to every single demographic of person you could possibly imagine. And I think we're fortunate in the sense that we're not just telling a song and dance show. It's about love, it's about loss, it's about family, it's about friends, it's about dedication to your craft, it's about passion, it's about the drive you have to be successful no matter what the odds may be. So for every single person that comes into this audience, I hope that it inspires them to continue to push along in their own lives, and that they remember that, hey, I went and saw this show, Jersey Boys, and it reminded me of a couple things that were so important. Maybe values and systems that were lost in time that just gave me the refresher I needed to keep on chugging. And so, yeah, I hope it inspires people in whatever way, shape, or form it may look like, but hopefully that they remember at the end of the day that art was an important contributor to that.
I definitely, for me personally, I find musical theater is one of the most beautiful, all-encompassing ways of doing that most important human activity of storytelling. And because you've got bodies in motion, you've got music, you've got visuals, the lights, and the story itself, it's a really good one. It's about what happens to four guys who are just chasing a dream relentlessly, and what that mix of personalities goes through, and the mistakes they make, and those shining moments, those beautiful moments they get to experience, largely as a result of sticking together. I think you'll find that's when the best things are happening to them, is when they're working for each other. And that's what I want audiences to take away, is that beauty and realizing just how beautiful of a medium it was told through.
Thank you for taking the time to get to know us as people and as performers, and get to know a little bit of the process for how we go into the show. We hope to see you at the theater. We have performances March 1st through the 24th. And on March 14th, we have a very special performance, a sing-along. And we want the audience to sing along, don't we, guys?
Yes, we do.
So we hope to see you there.